It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Congrats, your business is doing great. All your hard work is paying off, but you need help like now, and you have to hire fast. How can you hire amazing candidates quickly? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. And with sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. One of the things I love most about Indeed is that it has one of the largest databases of job seekers, giving employers access to a wide range of candidates. And with job alerts, I get notified when new candidates apply. And with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. So how fast? Well, in the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support a show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 229. Let's do it!
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He slept with a stuffed Smurf until he was 10 years old. Pat Flynn.
While DIY website tools are everywhere, most fall short on design and performance. Hit publish. Framer ships your site worldwide in seconds. No code, no compromises. Framer is a powerful, user-friendly platform that delivers developer-level results without writing a single line of code. Make your designs move and convert with Framer. Framer brings your site to life with powerful animations, dynamic content handling, and a design-first approach that helps your site stand out. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. Browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something of your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, scroll and looping animations, and much more in seconds. And it's free to start. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting of generating starter layouts and can even translate your entire site to any language. On the back end, you'll get responsive breakpoints, built-in hosting, a flexible CMS, and privacy-friendly analytics. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at Framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's Framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. With running your own business, legal questions always come with the territory. Like, can I use this contractor agreement? What do I do if a client doesn't pay? Am I even structured the right way for taxes? Instead of Googling your way through legal landmines, imagine having a law firm ready to address your business's legal needs without the sticker shock. That's what you get with Legal Shield's small business plans. Legal Shield helps entrepreneurs access real legal help on contract reviews, collection letters, business formation guidance, and even help navigating IRS audits. Members can schedule consultations, upload documents through the app, and get support from a provider law firm that knows small business laws in your state. Plus, consultations on taxes or trademarks help you stay ahead of potential problems. And if a client is late on a payment, Legal Shield steps in with professional collection letters so you can protect your hard-earned revenue, all for a fraction of the price of hiring a lawyer on your own. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me today in session 229 of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. Really excited to share an amazing guest with you today, somebody who blew my mind and the minds of many other people who watched her video asking to come on the show and provide value for you today. So before I share that audio clip, and of course the video clip is available at the show notes at smartpassiveincome.com/session 229. Before that, I just want to say I get about a dozen people every single day who request to come on this show. I'm absolutely honored by that, and it just reminds me of the early days when I had to go out and really hunt and find people to come on the show. Now it's the other way around, and I'm sort of saying no a lot, which initially was hard for me to do, but it's very easy when I consider the three things that I take into account when it comes to who comes on the show. So the first thing is this somebody who can provide value to you, the listener? Is there some sort of transformation that they're going to help you go through so that by the end of listening to the episode, you're a different person? You have something in hand, something in mind that you can take with you and moving forward into your business, implement it, and see success. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, well, oftentimes it starts with the relationship that I have with this person already or through a friend. With this guest, that did not happen, actually. I didn't know Jess beforehand. But number three is also just the way that they ask. And they have to not necessarily blow my mind, but it just has to be considerate. It has to be something that makes sense and something that, obviously takes into account that I'm a busy person. A lot of people send essays worth of text in an email, and I just don't have the time to read that. But what Jess did is she sent me a video, and I ripped out the audio for you to listen to so that you don't have to go and watch the video right now, but you'll get an idea of who she is, what she's all about, and just how awesome she is, and then we'll just go right straight into the interview. Of course, like I said, that video is available at smartpassiveincome.com/session 29. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Jess Catorc. Here she is.
Hi Pat, I'm Jess. I know you must get a lot of emails, so I figured this short video might be a nice way to introduce myself. And hey, maybe a bit more interesting. A while ago, I had let you know how much I loved SPI. In fact, I've been listening to it since I started my business. I grew up in a small northern town in Canada, and from a young age, I always knew I wanted to run my own business. Just like you, I am an only child, and I was always encouraged to follow my dreams. So I did. At 12 years old, I discovered my passion for computers, and without even realizing it, I was soon teaching myself HTML coding and building websites. Side note, yes, that is a backwards visor. It was a thing. Fast forward many years, and I now run a business where I can work from anywhere and support my family by being with them when I need to. That business? You guessed it, I teach entrepreneurs how to make their own websites. I can tell you though, Pat, none of that would have happened without the help of SPI. Episode 145, well, thanks to that, my tips are now featured in Entrepreneur, the Huffington Post, and the Female Entrepreneur Association. Episode 203, well, I'm now running workshops at Google Campus in London, teaching entrepreneurs how to create simple and effective websites. And finally, do you remember episode 110? Listening to that and going through your tutorial, I've now also launched a podcast with guest lineup including Lisa Nichols, Michelle Gielan, Pam Slim, and your good friend, Amy Porterfield. I should add, all of this happened by the time I was 24 years old. I've honestly learned so much from you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that you're doing. I wanted to reach out to you because I would love to be able to share my tips with the SPI community on making a website for their business. I've seen my method help so many of my own students gain success, and it would be an honor to speak about it with you on the show. But regardless of if you'd like to speak with me or not, I just hope you know how much you've helped me with my business and how grateful I am. I hope you have a great week, and Pat, I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Jess. Hey Pat, thank you so much for watching the video until the very end. If you think I'd be a good fit for SPI, I would love to hear from you. So please leave me a message below and have a good day. See you.
Jess, what's up? Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Pat. So excited to be here.
So everybody just listen to, and I recommend they watch, the video that you created, which got you on the show, and a lot more other things too. I mean, I'm looking at the video online right now, and at least on Facebook, there's over 14,000 views, 50 comments, like almost 100 shares. This is a video of you just sharing how awesome you are, but not in a cheesy, cocky kind of way, but in a way that really made me and other people get behind you to come on the show. I mean, where did you even get this idea to do a video like that?
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, the response was just insane. And I have to say thank you to you as well. You responded, I think, in 6 hours or something. I just got the notification when you commented. But I think I've always been drawn to video, like anything that had to do, like even in school. I mean, I did a flash mob video for my mom's birthday one year. So it was definitely a natural thing for me to try out. Now, I know you get, I think, 400 emails every single day. Mm-hmm. So I knew that I had to be a bit creative in how I was going to reach out to you. So that was just, video was a given. And then I just try to find just like a unique way to reach out. I know you've got a fun kind of quirky personality, so I tried to incorporate that in the video as well. And then just released it.
It was perfect. Now, did you hire somebody else to do that for you, or did you do that all yourself?
So the video was professionally filmed, so I hired a videographer, but all of the editing and everything was done by me.
Okay, but you didn't hire this videographer specifically for this purpose, or did you?
Well, it was a bit of both. So that video was actually done when I was doing my workshop at Google Campus. Mm-hmm. And then I said to him ahead of time, I was like, look, I want you to come to record it, but there's kind of a random thing that I want to do at the end of it. He's like, okay. I was like, do you know Smart Passive Income? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, this is going to be crazy, but I want to do a video pitch and send it to him. So I had everything scripted. I had all of the different scenes that I wanted to do. So it was kind of combined in both, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just really fun.
it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And just thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Happy to have you on the show. And it's going to be interesting to see how people who want to be on the show later end up pitching me. Because if they just send an email and be like, hey, you know what? My audience is stepping it up in terms of how they're asking. Check out this video. Try again. But maybe not. I don't know. But you set the bar really high. And so I just wanted to, again, thank you for that. I think everybody enjoyed listening to it. I, again, recommend everybody, you go to the show notes, you watch it. Jess is awesome. And, I didn't bring her on just because she created a great video. She has a lot of great content to share. And we're going to talk a lot about building simple and effective websites today, which obviously is very important for all of us. But before that, Jess, I just wanted to get to know you a little bit and have you share your story. How did you get to where you're at today in teaching websites?
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of funny. I started when I was 12. That's when we got like our first proper computer. And I don't know, do you remember that old scratchy dial-up connection?
Yeah.
Used to have way back in the day?
Like 14.4, like that whole thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like you, I'm an only child, so I had a lot of free time on my hands. So I ended up playing on this virtual pet website called Neopets. And you could play games with your pet, you could feed it, you could take it shopping, but one of the elements of that website was you could create your pet its own page. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. To me, it just seemed like a game as well, but I was actually learning basic HTML coding. So what it was for me, it was like, okay, if I want to create this page, I want to change the colors or add an image, I entered this line of text and then I got a different result on the page. But that's genuinely how I started. And from there, that's what sparked my interest in web design. And I've been doing it ever since, really. Throughout school, any class that had to do with computers or design, I was in it. Any homework assignments that if I could do like a website or a video, going back to that as well, I tried to do it. And then ended up getting a certificate in digital media. I moved to Australia and I just started to work there. So I was working on different digital media projects. But then the company I was working for at the time, they asked me to learn this thing called WordPress. And I thought, just with my extensive background in web design and just basically being a computer nerd, I was like, no worries, give me a couple of days. How hard can it be? And I'm sure you've got people probably laughing right now because I don't know if you did this as well, Pat, but anyone that's tried to teach themselves WordPress with no guidance, the process isn't always as easy as we think it's going to be.
Yeah.
So that basically I ended up spending hours and hours on YouTube, watching videos, reading books, going to workshops. I mean, the only way I can really describe that journey was like climbing this massive WordPress mountain. But then when I finally looked back at all of the steps I took to get there, I realized something, and I think you've probably seen this as well. I just like so many other people, we tend to take the scenic route and we learn so much more than we actually need to know. And then that just gets us feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. So from there, I actually just decided, okay, well, I'll start designing WordPress websites. So I was working with entrepreneurs one-on-one. And then the more that I was working with them, I started to hear the same thing over and over again. And that was that they're like, oh, thank goodness I found you. Try to do it myself. What a nightmare, so glad someone else is doing this. So then I started thinking, and then I kind of got this light bulb moment where I was like, why don't I start a business and I can teach these people how easy it is? And that's genuinely what I've been doing ever since.
That's awesome. I love that. And obviously you're serving a huge audience there in a very, very painful thing, which is, like you said, starting WordPress sites. I remember when I first started back in 2008 and I was building a website that a lot of people know called inthelead.com, which later became greenexamacademy.com. That was built all myself to serve the architecture industry. And I remember there was one day where I had like my first advertiser on the site who wanted to put a 150 by 150 pixel on the page. And I put it on the page using like a widget, and because I knew that was the easiest way to do that. And they came back and they're like, hey, Pat, we love the ad. It looks great there, but can you move it to the other side of the page? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so I like you, I was like on YouTube trying to become a JavaScript, CSS expert, and I got super frustrated. Long story short, my wife finally saw how frustrated I was, and she just called a friend and was like, hey, Mel, I think, can do that for you. Do you mind if... And I was just like, fine, I'll give him access to the site and he'll figure it out. And in like 2 minutes, he did it. And then the funny thing was he came back and he was like, hey, Pat, dude, I fixed it for you. But really quick, just who built your website? Because quite honestly, the coding is terrible. And I was like, well, it was me. Thanks. But that was kind of my first time knowing that, this wasn't easy, and I then looked for other help out there. So it's great that there's help like yourself out there, Jess. And let's talk about you creating your business. So what was that like in terms of your mindset shift from, okay, well, I'm just kind of in here doing websites for myself, and that now I'm going to serve other people and do it. How did you actually build your business from there?
So what I started doing, the very first thing was, because it's interesting, is when you start something, especially because I learned WordPress myself, the things that I thought people wanted to learn were actually a lot different than what they wanted or how they phrased it. And I actually got this from SPI, but I did a survey. And I would just go into groups and I said, hey, I'm not selling anything. I just want maybe 15, 20, even 30 minutes of your time. I just want to give you questions and I want to hear what your experience is trying to teach yourself a website. So that's actually how I started building, not even my courses, but the content that I would deliver, how I worded things on my about page. So that was the very beginning. And then from that, I started my online course and I got beta testers. So these were people, this is before I even released it, and I could get their feedback and I could see from the very beginning, from starting with nothing to building their website, what struggles and hurdles they faced, and then tweaking it to match that. But it was definitely, when you're a web designer, it's really easy to kind of hide behind your business. And I'm sure so many other people find this when they start like being the face of their business, it's definitely a mindset shift. You have to have a lot more self-confidence. You have to put yourself out there and not care what other people think. But I think it's actually been the most rewarding thing. That's
really cool. Okay, so this is great because you did the customer research right up front, so that there was took all the guesswork out, which is fantastic. And then you launched your course. What platform were you using to launch your course?
Well, I did it on WordPress. I figured if I'm teaching people how to do their own websites, I should probably have it on there.
Okay. Did you use like a plugin or something to help you manage that course?
Yes.
Which one was that?
Yeah, I used Zippy Courses.
Okay, Zippy
it's
Courses.
been
Great.
brilliant. Yeah.
That's Derek Halpern's software. We'll put the link in the show notes for everybody. But keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And so what I did was before then, so I was blogging, I was releasing free content. I had my ebook. And so I would release, and I had like a wait list saying, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on this. I'm going to be releasing my course soon. If you're interested, sign up here. And then what I did was I actually did Jeff Walker Style or David Siteman Garland, the 3 video series, and then that launched into the course.
Very nice. Okay, so that's great. And when it comes to the launch of your course and the beta group and all that stuff, like how many spots did you have available when you launched to the beta group?
So originally I was just going to do 10 people, but the response was quite big when I said, hey, I'm looking for, beta testers. So I ended up going to around 20, and I actually would recommend, I don't know if I would do more just because like what I did first is I asked people to send me just a list of questions or answers to my questions. And it was really important that I found people that were genuinely just starting out, but also had the time and the commitment to go through the course and give feedback. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of the time you can get people that would love to do the course for free, but timing wise, they might not be able to do it or give you really good feedback. So I probably wouldn't do more than 20. And then I had like a survey at the end, anonymous, so they could be very honest about what they wanted to say. Mm-hmm. And then I tweaked it from there.
What were some of the things that you read in the survey that were pretty massive that you learned?
I mean, it's funny. It was actually little things like audio. So for my video, having like the audio levels the same in the tutorial and the screencast than because I have like a professionally filmed intro video for each each module. Mm-hmm. Little things like that. Like, 'cause I was so focused on the content. And then other things, and I think this can apply to any course, is the length of your videos. So rather than having a really long video, especially if you're doing like a screencast and having all of this amazing content in it, breaking it up into bite-sized chunks, that was probably one of the biggest things is people were like, I love what you're doing, but I want to be able to jump in, watch this video, do this one thing, get one result, go get my coffee, go do something else, come back and do the next thing. So I think those were the biggest ones.
And define bite-sized for us. Like how long is a video?
I mean, it really depends on what it is you're teaching. For me, bite size could be from 4 minutes to up to 10, 15 minutes. But I would say even 10 to 15 can be pushing it, especially if people are following steps back and forth. So it depends on what it is that you're doing. But between that time frame was the best.
Awesome. And can you define what it is that you're teaching in your course? I mean, because, you hear web designer, somebody who's great at it. And I think initially a lot of people were thinking, well, Jess is creating an agency and she's just getting people who want websites and she's building their websites for them. But it sounds like it's something different. Can you share with us what it is you're teaching in your course, actually?
Definitely. So basically the focus and the goal of the course is for entrepreneurs that are completely starting out and they have no desire to become a web designer. So that's not what I'm teaching. All it is just the basic fundamental steps that they need to take. And this is from the survey, is that people were saying that they wanted to do it themselves, but they were so worried about it looking like a DIY website. So that's what I incorporated in it. So I was like, okay, so I can show you the steps on the technical side, but then I can also show you like the branding and the things that I do for my own websites, how you can apply that and then you can make it look professional. So it's really just how to present yourself online, how to create consistency with your graphics, your designs, and then basic things like even how to protect your website or creating manual backup systems in place. Things that you don't need to know to become a web designer, but as an entrepreneur, especially if you're on a tight budget, they're things that are going to help you to be able to launch online.
Awesome. And we'll get right into those things. But before that, I know you listened to the Smart Passive Income podcast. You had mentioned this in your video, of course, and you had mentioned a few episodes that were really helpful to you. You had mentioned episode 145, which was the one with Kamanzi. Can you talk about how you were able to take that information and how it was useful for you?
Definitely. I mean, those are just like a couple episodes. There are obviously a lot more. So the biggest thing, so for those ones, the first one was when I was trying to pitch myself online to get to not online magazines, but larger websites. That was my first focus because there's a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge and probably are doing the same thing as me. So I was like, well, how do I get my message out there and gain some sort of credibility? So it was so the first thing was getting really specific on the website that I wanted to approach, reading through all of the articles that they were publishing and understanding the style, the format, the types of things that they published. And every single website is different. So, you can have someone that says, okay, this is how you get published on all of the major platforms. But as an example, so with Huffington Post, when I submitted my first initial pitch, it was actually rejected because it was, and this was before I listened to the episode, it was very technical and it was very specific and all these different tips. And then I started to read through all of the things that they were actually publishing. And it was a much more from an emotional side, or the journey that you're taking to get somewhere. So I submitted another article, completely different approach. Within a couple of hours, I got the email back from Ariana and she said, great, let's publish it. But then Entrepreneur, as an example, they're technical. They want tips. They want, 5 ways to launch your website. So it's really just understanding what you're trying to approach, who you're trying to approach, and tailoring it specifically to them. So that was the biggest thing for writing articles. Second one was for the workshop at Google Campus. Honestly, the biggest thing with that, I've also got other speaking engagements like in Colorado coming up now.
Nice.
And it was just, it's really exciting. And it's just getting really, being confident isn't the right word, but it was just being able to communicate your message in an authentic way, not worrying necessarily on what other people are thinking, but how you can give value. That was a big thing. And then last one, your interview with Tim Ferriss, and also and highly recommend anyone that wants to start their podcast to do your podcast tutorial. I wish you could see my hard drive because all of my folders are like formatted the way that you say.
Awesome.
So that was the biggest thing, was like just getting started and then reaching out to, I'm not going to say like influential people, but people that are well known that have their own following and that they can give a lot of value to your show as well.
Beautiful. Awesome. So you have a podcast too.
Yes.
What's the name of the podcast?
Making the Entrepreneur.
Making the Entrepreneur.
So that's not necessarily on the website, but it was just interviewing female entrepreneurs, getting tips, and just it's much more broad than just on like the DIY website side.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all that and for talking up the SPI podcast. I know a lot of other people who have taken action, and I just wanted to make sure that people know that when you take action, you get results on this stuff. So hopefully you'll be taking action on a lot of what we're about to say in regards to actually building your website, making it effective, branding, and all that sort of stuff. So I want to start with, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making out there when they're crafting their websites and they're trying to share a message and present themselves in a great way to build authority? What are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making, and how can we overcome them?
So the first thing is wanting to share so much on their homepage. This is to the point where I've actually created like a free video on how to actually work out your homepage, because especially when you're starting out, you want to seem professional. You want to share with everyone all of your knowledge and everything that you've done so people take you seriously and they're going to want to learn more about what it is that you're doing. But I found that this actually has the reverse effect. And I'm sure we've all come across a website where you go to it and you're just like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, if this is even for me. They scroll through and you get a higher bounce rate because people just don't know what the purpose is of your site. Mm-hmm. And I know that when you launched your new website design, you actually analyzed what people were doing on your homepage to see what it is that they were struggling with and how you could improve that. So the first thing I would say, even if you're just starting out or you have a website now, is if you have like an image banner, have a short sentence showing people what it is that you do and how you can help them. So an example, on my website, I have Websites Made Easy. It's very short. It's not a long paragraph, but if people come to your site, they instantly know either they're on the right site, they're going to be interested, or if not, you filter them out and they go on their way. The next thing is, if you're blogging and you want to have, your latest articles featured on your homepage, I think that's brilliant, but it should be like an either or. So either your homepage is focused just on your blog or your podcast, or you have a list of the services or the things that you offer, rather than trying to blend everything all into one. And that can just leave the page feeling a bit overwhelmed. And then the third thing, I mean, there's more tips, but the third thing would be think of some testimonials or some way that you can have social proof. If you've been published in larger websites or places that are specific to your target audience, so they would see it and they would know what that place is, find a way to incorporate that on your site. I know Lewis Howes does a great way of doing this with his logos of where he's been featured. Even if you have testimonials of people that have worked with you, just find a way that when someone's on your site or on your homepage, they're like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. And then they're going to want to learn more.
That's awesome, Jess. Now, one of the things you mentioned earlier is trying to be professional. I just have to highlight again what you said there. And a lot of times we do want to look professional because we want to be taken seriously, but we often take that too far and we create something where it doesn't reflect who we are. And I think that was one of the big things with my latest redesign was, I felt like what was on my homepage, and if you go back into my archives of my history of themes, you'll see that it's just more personality has been inserted into my website so that people understand who I am right away. How can people better brand themselves on their websites? This is something you do really well at jessicacatorc.com. That's Catorc with a C at the end because it's silent, because it's French, because I asked you that question before we got started. But you can see obviously on your website, it's very clear what it is that you do. And I am just immediately drawn to your personality. I can kind of tell what kind of person you're immediately. How can we better do that on our websites online?
Definitely. Well, first of all, thanks very much. This actually goes back because I actually share this with people in my course. I'm like, I show an older version of my website because it was not like that at all. And this is actually what comes into play with branding. The first thing that I would say to do is, so this is going to sound really cheesy, but it just resonates with me. What I do is I start with a piece of paper and I draw a heart in the middle of the page. And you want to think of that as literally the heart of your business. Then take some time to just draw around that. Certain things that make you you. Not necessarily from a business, so like your unique selling point or the things that you offer, but things like colors that you like, brands that you resonate with, hobbies that you have. So for you could put like singing or things like that, and just get really specific. And then what I say the next thing is you want to create a mood board. So a mood board is really just like a visual representation of the feeling that you want to evoke with your brand or your website. And what it is you can use things like Pinterest or Google Images and just find images that really resonate with you and reflect those core values that you wrote down. And it might not seem to make sense right away, but when you do this step, and this is what I did, so with my new redesign, so what you're seeing now, I had this idea of what I thought my brand and my website should look like. And then when I actually did this for myself and I started to see a common ground of all the things that I was collecting, you get much more clear on the brand and the tone that you want to use. And then secondly, I guess thirdly, is don't be afraid to be you on your website. This is something I really struggled with before, more so when I was doing it as a web designer. Because for me, I mean, you can look now on my website, it's pink. And I really struggled with that because I thought, who is going to take a web designer in a pink dress seriously? I thought I have to have it looking corporate and very serious and professional. Other things is like, if you have hobbies, don't be afraid to show that on your about page. So like I share that I dance. That was another thing that I struggled with. I was like, they're not going to think that I'm committed to web design. They're going to think I'm dancing every weekend or whatever. So just, it actually has the reverse impact of what you think. So don't be afraid to show that. And there's so many different ways that you can do it. But what I would say is get clear on a couple of key things that make you you, and then find ways to integrate that. So you don't want to have like all of your different hobbies and personalities on your site. But when you're clear on a few key things by doing all those exercises, that's when I think the magic happens and when people start to really resonate with your brand.
I love that. And obviously for people who've been to my site before, they know that I do what I can to make sure that I am myself on my website, on my podcast too. Every show I have a little fun fact read about me from my voiceover guy, John Melly, at the top of the show. And that has actually made a huge...
I love that.
Thank you. That's actually made a really, really big impact. And I remember when I first started doing that, a lot of my other podcaster friends were like, why are you wasting your time? Nobody cares about that stuff. But actually they do. And it's funny because when I go to conferences and stuff, those are the things, those little facts are things that people mention first. They find the one that resonates with them and they talk about it with me like, oh, Pat, I'm also half Filipino. Or, dude, like I used to be a bodyboarder too. Or, man, I'm also afraid of spiders. Or, all these little things that on the surface don't make sense, don't seem like they matter. But in the world of online business, the fact that it's online, the more human you are, the more likely you are to make one of those real connections, more likely you are to build raving fans. Now, when it comes to the technical aspect of building a website, which I know is a struggle for a lot of people, what are your recommendations there? I think a lot of people, especially those who are going to start a website soon, they're a little bit intimidated. They might be procrastinating because of that. Do you recommend like a specific host? And do you recommend getting a theme after that or making your own website yourself and HTML? How do you teach going about that?
Yeah, so the first thing, and I think it's actually a question that people have, is most people are wondering, okay, what platform do I use to even build my website? Because there's things like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, WordPress. And I do have to say that there's never going to be a right or a wrong way, because this goes back to the procrastinating. It's better to have a website than no website at all and spending hours trying to compare the pros and the cons of each one. But I recommend WordPress personally. It's the self-hosted version, not WordPress.com. The reason why I recommend it is that think of your business, not yours, but anyone listening, in like 5 or even 10 years' time. The vision that you have for your business, chances are it's not going to be with a Wix or Weebly site. So when you have WordPress.org, this is self-hosted, so you install it on your domain. You have so much more control. You're able to add all these different functions, and it's completely up to you as to what you add. It's flexible. It can grow with your business. And just like you found now with your new redesign, you can hire out. So when you're ready to move on and transition to maybe working with a developer or a new designer, they can easily take what you already have and upgrade it. So you don't have to have these really crazy transfers, like if you're using Wix or Weebly, for example. The other thing is that when you're hosting your website yourself, part of the control is that, let's say you've got your site on Squarespace or Wix. If they close up in the morning, so does your website. So that's just, I think as a business owner, the more control you have, the better. So that's why I recommend it. And then definitely you want to find a hosting company. And for anyone that's just starting out, I don't know where I got this analogy from, but you want to think of your hosting company like your cyberspace landlord. So they basically manage this plot of land in cyberspace for you to build your website on it. And it's actually kind of cool. We both recommend the same hosting company, which is Bluehost. And I think you've got a really good deal or a link for that as well. But personally, I recommend Bluehost because it's 24/7 live support. And this goes back to if you think of your hosting company like your landlord, especially if you're starting out, if anything happens day or night, let's say you're working on your website at 2:00 in the morning and something breaks, just knowing that you can speak to a real person versus having to submit a support ticket, wait 48 hours to hear something, it just honestly makes things so much easier. Bluehost is recommended by WordPress. You get a free domain with them, which is a bonus. So that's just what I recommend. But again, there's no right or wrong answer. People can take the time to compare them, but I've worked with several other hosting companies, and hands down, I just think Bluehost is the best.
Yeah, at the shared hosting option, which means it's going to be the cheapest. By far, it's the best. I feel. I've actually gone to their headquarters. I've met the team there, the CEO. We've had long chats, and I know for a fact that they're doing whatever they can to be the best host out there. That's what I recommend. I have a deal, like you said. If you go to smartpassiveincome.com/Bluehost, you'll see a cheaper price than you can get on the main site. So that's awesome. That's great. Now, when it comes to the theme. I know that's typically the next step for people. You get website hosting, you get a theme. Is that what you teach, or do you actually teach building your own site from like scratch or something?
No, actually, I would highly recommend themes. And this is just going back because my audience are people that are just starting out. So they don't want to learn code. They have no interest in it. And so anyone that's listening that's not familiar with what a theme is, it's I mean, I have really terrible analogies, Pat, but it's like the pre-designed room that you can find in IKEA. So it's like a pre-designed layout or template, and it's what, in my opinion, makes your site look really nice, professional in a matter of minutes once you install it. But there's a couple of different themes that are out there, and I know this kind of stumps people because they're going to come across, especially if you were like me and you're looking through forums, you're going to see things like frameworks and parent themes and child themes. What I recommend for beginners is look for a parent theme. And we can definitely go into the differences. Like a framework is just like the framework of your house. There's no fancy colors or design. And most of the time, a developer is going to take a framework, add their own code, and then create a parent theme. So that's just the easiest thing to go for is the parent theme. What I do recommend, though, is when you're browsing, you're going to see that there's free and premium themes. Premium meaning that you do have to pay for them. I mean, I know there's different types, like people have different opinions on this. I personally use and I recommend premium themes just because when you're working, so WordPress is open source, meaning that everyone has access to the code. If there's any security loopholes or vulnerabilities, they'll go through it, they'll fix it and release an update. The same thing applies to the coding for themes. So when you invest in a premium theme, and most of the time they're going to be well under $100, you're getting access to a developer that is going to be regularly updating their theme, which is important for the security of your website. And then you also have access to them if you have any questions. So that is definitely a plus that you don't always get with a free theme.
Nice. And then with the parent theme, are there enough options to sort of customize? I think another big worry with getting a theme out there that everybody can get access to or pay for is that their website's going to be like somebody else's. Is that even anything to worry about? Is that something they should be concerned of?
So there's two different things that you can do with this. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can definitely like customize things with CSS. And that's where a child theme comes in. So most of the time a developer or designer will create a child theme. They'll add some custom code to change the way that the base theme looks. And then when you update your parent theme, nothing gets affected. But what I would say is that the biggest thing is your website's not going to look the same if you go through the right branding steps and you create some really distinct visual designs. So let's say everyone has access to the same web theme or template where they have an image banner and they've got 3 sections that they can add in their own graphics. Every graphic is going to be different. Every style is going to be different. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. That being said, though, if you want to really make something completely unique, I definitely check out Divi. It's a theme by Elegant Themes. It's an amazing theme. It's a drag and drop visual editor. So you can basically build it from the ground up and you still don't need to know code. So that's a nice kind of option as well.
Very cool. What's that theme called again?
It's Divi. D-I-V-I.
D-I-V-I. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. You had mentioned branding. For those just starting out, and even for those who have a business already, you know, because oftentimes branding becomes something that is just a Frankenstein job where along the way you're adding new things. I know this was the case for SPI for a while because all these different pieces started to be added on, the YouTube channel, Ask Pat, other parts, SPI TV, and it just all was different. And so part of the major focus of the redesign was actually, well, how do we make all this coherent? When people are looking at their brands, what are some exercises they could do? What are some things that they could do to make sure that the branding element is spot on? And why is that so key, actually?
So the most important thing with branding is, in my mind, it's consistency. There was a really great workshop I went to where a lady was she's a designer for Microsoft, and she did all of their visual elements for their marketing campaign. And what she did is, as an exercise, she gathered all of their different brochures and posters and she laid them out on the ground. And she said, just look at them. She's like, just by scanning your eyes or squinting your eyes and looking at them, can you easily distinguish what it is this company or who this company is or what brand this is? And that's just really important especially because there's so many different social media platforms, different things that you can be doing online. You want it to be easy for people to spot out what it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. The first one is something as simple as choosing your colors. And what I say is, like, when you're choosing your color scheme, actually a great resource if you want to have help for picking out your colors is Design Seeds. I think it's design-seeds.com or .net. And they have all these really great color combinations that you can choose from. But the first thing is like choose 1 to 2 focus colors. So colors that you're going to use the most prominent on your website or within your design elements. And then think of 2 to 3 complementing colors. So these are colors that you're not going to use everywhere, but they're literally going to just complement the focus colors. They're not competing for attention. So I think for you, Pat, like your colors would definitely be red, and you've got some green as well. Mm-hmm. And so when people see like all the different things that you're doing, they're like, oh yeah, that looks like Pat. Or even simple things like your, I think you'd said once one of your episodes, the "Hi, my name is Pat" sticker, and you had it on your backpack or something, and someone came up to you and they're like, oh yeah, I've been listening to your podcast. Just things like that where people can easily recognize what it is that you're doing. And then the other thing is fonts. A lot of people miss the step and they just kind of use whatever fonts happen to be on their computer or whatever they're using. Get clear on what is your main font. What is your heading font for your titles, even for your logo? Do you have a complementing font? So sometimes a lot of people use like a cursive or kind of a quirky looking font to add some contrast or depth. Just get really clear as to what you're using, when you're using it, and then anything that you're doing moving forward, it's always going to have that consistency.
Right. It's always much easier. I know that when I speak, for example, I use a lot of the same fonts on my slides. It just becomes overall something that's even just easier to do once you define what those things are. And like I said, most people go in without defining those things. So I'm glad you talked about that. And then finally, what I wanted to talk about, which is something that isn't talked about very often, but it seems like it's something you cover in your course, and I wanted to touch on this, and that is website security, backups. Like, just it's our business online. We want to keep it safe and you know, not let anybody else in. What are some steps that we could all take to make sure that we have a secure website?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, first I'll have to share a story just to put things in perspective. Yeah. So this is probably within the first year, I'd say 6 months of when I was running my business. And I was recording the one of the modules for my course, and that was on how to install WordPress. And granted, it was like 2:00 in the morning. It was not exactly prime time. Jessica was a little bit tired. And without even realizing it, I installed WordPress on my main website. And basically, that meant that within a couple of seconds, I had wiped everything out and I had a fresh installed WordPress on that domain. And I really do not wish that feeling on anyone. But because I had backups, I was able to get my site up in a matter of minutes. So that really put things in perspective for me, because had I not had that, that would have been months of work, hours and hours of time that I put in that was just completely gone, and I wasn't guaranteed of getting it back. This is something that definitely a lot of people leave. They don't really consider it, and they kind of just take it for granted. But always have a backup. And I mean, this is even something like for your email list. Do people are you regularly backing up your email list? Just taking those extra precautions, should anything happen, you're always going to have something in place. So I recommend, this is a really great plugin. It's called Manage WP. I mean, there's so many other ones out there, but I just love what they're doing. There's other features within that, like if you want to transfer your site from one domain to another. They also have, I think is incredible, within workdays, it's 1 hour response time, I think, for people for your support tickets. Wow. And so you can just create a regular automatic backup. When you're doing this, though, what I recommend is if you're doing a daily backup, which I think is a really good idea, have more than one. So have at least 3 backups saved. The reason is that let's say you go away on holidays or a trip and you have a backup, and then 2 days later you realize that your site is down or something happened to it. If you only have one backup in place, you're going to have the most up-to-date version, which is going to be that broken version of the site backed up. So that doesn't really help. Mm-hmm. So have 3 if you can. And then also, rather than backing up your site just like on your server, like with your hosting, have it saved to an external place like Dropbox, and then even potentially save it onto your hard drive. Just because a lot of people will save backups on their server, but then if your server, like your hosting account, gets hacked or your website gets hacked, it's really not very helpful having it there because you won't have access to it anyways.
Right.
So that's definitely something to consider. And then another thing, just for security, this goes back, we didn't really talk about this, but with Bluehost, you've got a one-click WordPress install, which I recommend for anyone that's starting out that wants to get WordPress installed easily. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll go through this not really thinking, because a lot of other hosting companies offer one-click install. First thing is make sure you have the most up-to-date version of WordPress, but also your plugins and your themes as you go through and creating your website. And this is kind of like any security loopholes or vulnerabilities. If they're fixed and they have an update available, you want to ensure that you have that update there. The other thing is your username. This by default for a lot of one-click installs can be admin, your email, your first name. And what I would say is, because I actually use a plugin called Securi, and they monitor all of my websites. I'm not sure if you're using them as well, Pat.
Yep, they're great.
Yeah. Now, I can't tell you how many times people have tried to hack into the back end of my site using my first name and my email. And this is like my personal email, not one that's publicly or easily available online. So I think if you can make your username difficult to guess, that's one extra hurdle that someone has to get into the back end. And then the other thing is having a strong password. So that's a given. Letters, numbers, uppercase, lowercase. And that as a whole is really important.
Totally. I also have a plugin called Limit Login Attempts, which will track how many people try to log in to my WordPress backend. And it literally tracks hundreds of attempts a day, which is scary to think about. That like people are trying to access my website like that. So super important to have a unique, just interesting, hard to guess username and obviously password to go along with it. It's really important.
Definitely. And I don't know if you've come across this, but there's also a really good plugin that I use is called Google Authenticator. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you have this in the States, but I live in the UK, and with your online banking, a lot of the time you can't just get in with your username and your password. The bank gives you this calculator and you have to enter a code, and then you have to enter it on the website to actually get in. Mm-hmm. With Google Authenticator, it's an app on your phone. So even if someone has your username or your password, it's like this app generates a code like every 10 or 20 seconds, and you have to enter it in to be able to get into the back end. So that's another really cool thing that you can do. So even if someone does have access to your username and your password, if they don't have your phone with that app, they still can't get in.
So can you connect that into the back end of your WordPress site, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so you just look at, I can share with you the link, but it's called Google Authenticator. It's just a plugin that you add into your site. Then you download the app on your phone, and then you link the site and you enter the code, and then it syncs everything up. And it's just, honestly, it's just been such a great thing to have, because it's just, it just puts your mind at rest that even if for whatever reason someone finds your password, or they override, or they get it in 3 attempts, it doesn't matter, because they still can't access it unless they have that specific code that was generated at the specific time when they tried to log in.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I guess it's like a 2-step verification sort of sequence,
exactly.
Which is what I do for all of my stuff as much as I can. So yes, it's a little bit of a hassle because there's an extra step, but imagine if somebody were to get access to those things, including like bank accounts, PayPal. I mean, I do 2-step across the board because it's just like you said, it just puts my mind at ease knowing that all the top secure things are there in place, so I can continue to run my business without worrying about somebody hacking into my stuff, which has happened before. I don't know if you remember this, Jess, but back in March of 2013, on a trip to San Francisco, actually, I brought Caleb, my videographer, and we were there to film some behind-the-scenes stuff for my book, Let Go. And it was while I was on that trip that my site got hacked, and everything was completely down. Not just that site, but all the sites that were on that server too. And it actually wasn't with Bluehost; it was with a server that I upgraded to from Bluehost after I outgrew it. And it was down for about a week and a half, and I had calculated that it was probably a loss of about $20,000 based on my normal affiliate incomes and that sort of thing. And I actually recouped a little bit of that income through business insurance that I had, but quite honestly, it took about 6 months to recoup about 10% of that. So I was happy to get some back, but it was just a long process, such a headache, such a hassle. And we've since obviously put a lot of the security features in place to make sure that doesn't happen again, or that it's obviously much harder. So yeah, website security, backups, all really important stuff. And finally, Jess, again, I want to just thank you for coming on the show, for sharing your wisdom here. I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially those who are just starting out. But it's a really inspirational story. And so do you have any final tips for people out there, whether they are just starting out or have a business or a brand already? How can they really crush it online and stand out in the space that they're in?
I think the biggest thing, and I've learned this personally, is just don't be afraid of being yourself and then going with that 110%. Because we tend to like hold ourselves back and we doubt ourselves and we think everything needs to be perfect. But I'd say the biggest thing is, just like I said, even if you're listening to this episode and you've got a website on Wix or Squarespace or something, it's better to have something and then keep moving and keep progressing than it is to hold yourself back and wait for everything to be good and then launch or then do the next step. So I just think the biggest thing is just get clear on who you are and what it is that you want to bring, and then just go forward with that.
I love that. I think that speaks to everybody out there who's listening, because we all have something that we want to do, but we just haven't done it yet. So please do that thing. The world needs you. They need your help in the way that you know how to provide it. So Jess, thank you so much again for coming on. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, well, no, thank you so much, Pat. This has been awesome. Well, I've actually created, if you go to jesscatorc.com/SPI, this is only for SPI listeners. I just had this, actually, I got this idea from, it was one of the last episodes that you had on. Mm-hmm. So basically, I've got a free DIY website mini course. I'm also including an ebook. So it's everything that I talked about, but it goes in depth with like the different types of themes and everything that you can add to your site. So it's jesscatorc.com/SPI.
And how do you spell Jess Catorc?
Yeah, it's Jess, Jess, and then CATORC, silent C.
.com/SPI.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and all the best.
Thanks so much, Pat. Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jess Catorc. Again, that's Jess, CATORC. If you go to jesscatorc.com/SPI, you can get that free giveaway for you, which is awesome. And I appreciate you all so much for listening in today. Thank you so much. Also, I want to take a quick moment just to thank you. I don't know if you realize this, but you, the listeners, have made a massive impact on the direction of where Smart Passive Income has gone. As a result of you, I've been interviewing certain guests that you've recommended. As a result of your recommendations, I've been tackling different topics that are of high interest to you. In addition to that, I created a brand new podcast called Ask Pat, which you may have heard of before. And on that show, I answer voicemail questions from you as well. You can actually check that out at askpat.com. But that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. Obviously, Ask Pat, there needs to be questions in addition to my answers in order to make that show a success. And I'm so thankful that it's there, and I have you to thank for that. I also have you to thank for pushing me to create some online courses to help you through a number of the different problems and pains that you might be having with your online business, the scaling of it, just even the start and the process of it. Even though there's a lot of great free information here via the podcast, I know this from my own experience as well, courses can be life-changing because you purchase a course and you are just in that mindset of actually doing that thing that course tells you to do. And I have a number of different courses available to you if that's the kind of thing you need in order to actually finally start getting results and taking action. So I know a number of you have already taken action, which is fine. Like, I'm not trying to push these courses on you, but they are there and available for those of you who would much prefer to get that targeted information and the accountability and the hand-holding through those processes. So if you want to check out and see all the courses that are available to you, all you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/courses. That's a page that's going to continually grow over time as well. So keep checking back, smartpassiveincome.com/courses. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. And I'm probably going to get a lot more people submitting requests to be here on the show. And as you could see with Jess and what she did, you're going to have to step up your game a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe not. But you got to impress me. You got to share a valuable story that I know is going to help the audience. You got to understand that I want to transform the listeners. Like many of you have been transformed by listening to the show. You can do the same thing. And, I often say, hey, if you want to make your goal being on the show, make it your goal, because I am more than happy to feature success stories here. There's only so many slots available, but there's one for you in the future perhaps. So wishing you all the best. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Look, I get it. You want to grow your business, but trying to sell to hundreds or even thousands of people gets very exhausting very fast. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? Score App helps you sell to more people without adding more to your plate. You build a quiz or assessment that your audience actually wants to take. Then they answer a few quick questions and get a personalized result right away. It shows them where they're at and what they need to do next and how you can help. And you build huge amounts of trust before you make even a single offer. No hard sell, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. All you have to do is just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. Have you dreamt about being your own boss, but still haven't made the first steps to making that dream a reality? Well, I get that. Starting a business can feel super overwhelming with legal forms, paperwork, finances. It's a lot. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Tailor Brands. Tailor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal assets and the business assets separate from day one. From there, you get access to everything you need to get off the ground. Legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program, all designed to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, listeners of this show get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. All you have to do is head to tailorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Tailor Brands.